Okay, right. So here, I'll kick things off. I'm sure we're all very, very thirsty, so we're going to get stuck into it. First of all, yeah, amazing to have the lads here tonight. Oh, and Liam, thanks a million for putting together the box and give us a shout. And I wanted to do something like this. They're always great crack. So I'm glad. I'm delighted. I'm absolutely delighted to be hosting anyway. It's an honor, I'll say.
Thanks for having us out.
It's all ours, Brian. All ours.
Cheers. Yeah, so just a quick hello to everyone. A little bit of just an overview of what we're going to be doing this evening. As you probably noticed, I don't know if you've been to any of these events before. You're all muted at the moment. By all means, get involved in the chat box. And if you do want to get involved in the chat yourself, feel free to pop the hand up as well, and we'll be able to unmute you and bring you in for a bit of chat if you fancy throughout the session. A little overview of the evening. So the way we've broken the beers down, so there's 9 beers in the box. So we kind of thought the best way of arranging it would be doing it in 4 tastings. So we kind of arranged it loosely by styles. So first half an hour we'll be looking at light lagers. The second half an hour will be kind of just more other lagers, we'll say. Third, we're looking at the pale ales, and then fourth, we're looking at, say, IPAs and the brown ale as well. So that's kind of general structure. You're absolutely free to taste any, all, or none of the beers, whatever you fancy. I'll leave that up to you to decide. So, yeah, I'm just going to...
Marathon, not a sprint.
Absolutely, Liam. Absolutely. Wise words. So with that, we'll kick things off and just say hello, lads. Thanks a million for joining. And yeah, you're very, very welcome. So why don't you say a quick hello to our illustrious audience here today?
Hello, everybody. Thanks very much for dropping by.
Cheers.
Cheers for your support and for picking up a launch box and dropping in. I see some very familiar faces there and some not familiar ones. I'm sure we'll know everybody by the end of the evening.
I would say so. And I'm sure we've a few thirsty heads, so we might as well kick off and get straight into it. What are we going for first?
Well, let's start with a light lager. I've actually just poured myself some Above Water, which is a light lager we do for a restaurant in Dublin called Soul Restaurant, which is a very nice seafood restaurant on one of the streets in Dublin.
Yes, well, it was more than very nice. It was Europe's top luxury seafood restaurant 2019, if I recall. Lads are very proud of themselves down there, and they're very, very good at what they do.
We didn't put their address on the label. Oops. But South William Street, I think. But they came to us and asked us to develop a light lager for them, something that was easily drank to go with their seafood. So that's where Above Water has come from. And it's bottled in 330 mils to suit the restaurant trade. And the challenge with a beer like that is that because it's very light and because it's a low ABV, it's very difficult to get the body into the beer. So we have to do a lot of tricking around with the beer to give it a bit of flavour. A lot of the flavour from it comes from the hops, and the water is very important in it as well. So we use a bit of calcium and a little bit of sodium chloride to bring out the flavour. We should probably tell you how we make beer first. I don't know if everybody here is initiated in the beer making process.
We could have some sort of sign language for everybody that's muted, so like just yes or no. If people don't want to listen to us waffling on about mash temperatures and calcium.
Yeah. Sign language and chat box, it's all good.
Yeah.
Use everything.
But the Above Water, it's a very similar beer to Go On, so actually. The big difference being how it's conditioned at the end. So Above Water is bottle conditioned. And what we do is we add some sugar into the bottle, and that gives the beer the carbonation. It's conditioned for a week after it's bottled. And what's happening there is the yeast is breaking down that sugar and giving us back a little bit more alcohol, not very much, and lots of carbon dioxide, which gives us bubbles in the beer. It also gives a little bit of flavour depending on which sugar we use. So there's hundreds of different types of sugars. We use Demerara in all of our beers. And what happens then is the yeast gives us a little slight white wine flavour or vinous flavour. Because the reason we use Demerara is it darkens the beer slightly, but it also gives it a little bit of silkiness on the back of the throat as it's going down. We messed around with lots of different sugars when we started, and Demerara was what we went with. There's a whole very exciting breakdown of the sugars that Demerara gets broken down into, but I won't bore you with that. It's all about enzymes. Heine never listens to me. There's no reason why you couldn't do it.
Very good. Okay, so Liam, the guys in the restaurant, I suppose, tasked you with creating this beer for it. What makes it a perfect pairing for seafood?
It's that lightness. Seafood doesn't tend to have very strong, very bold flavors, so you need something light to complement the seafood without hiding the flavors of the seafood, and that's where a light lager comes in. In the same way that white wine does the same thing.
You'll notice as well, we decided to opt for the long neck, the 33 CL bottle, which in craft beer you don't see too many, or definitely people have been moving away from in the last few years. But it suits the offering there at Seoul, and it's a very easy, very casual sort of size to get into, rather than going for the big pint, you know.
Yeah. I can see just in the chat, John is saying it's a cracking lager. He's already drank his, unfortunately. So I'll see. I'm not sure how many people are having it at the moment. If you are, let us know what you think about it. I'm having mine, and I think it's
there's more on the web shop, John.
Yeah.
throw up your pints there till we see what everybody's.
I know you all know about the web shop.
Very good, very good.
In fairness,
a lager like this they're actually incredibly difficult to brew. Brew well, especially in craft brewing, because when something is that light in flavor, if there's a flaw in it comes through. So while it's the easiest drinking beer we make, it's probably the most difficult we have to brew. So
there's nowhere to hide.
I say that about light lager right now, but all the beers are difficult to brew.
So yeah, it's Richie saying it's savage. Just going back to the glasses, yeah. So Ruben said Pauline broke all the beloved St. Mels glasses, so it's a Rye River Teku for him.
We'll have to get into that design.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of love coming in for it here. I'll go to Garrod's question quickly now. He said, is there an exact formula, or is it trial and error to work out how quickly yeast eats the sugar?
It's not an exact formula, but the factors in it are how much sugar there is, how much yeast there is, and what the temperature is. But if you go at too high a temperature and it happens too quickly, and we're going to be getting into boring enzymes again, but if it happens too quickly, the metabolism of the sugar changes slightly, and you get more pronounced off flavors. So you have to do it gently. We find 15 degrees for 7 days works best for us.
Okay, nice.
But yeah, and the other thing is the type of yeast that's used. There's a few factors in it.
Sure. Enzymes are only boring for some people, Liam.
I love enzymes.
Okay, right. So I'm thinking we should probably talk about St. Mels a little bit. How did you guys get started? Like, where did St. Mels begin?
I started brewing a long time ago. Almost 20 years I've brewing. I started with a company called Dublin Brewing Company. Sorry, I'm just going to crack open a can. Oops. I started with a company called Dublin Brewing Company in 2001, I think it was. So I'm 20 years brewing next year, but I went in there straight from college. I was doing a degree in biotech in Maynooth. I had an interest in brewing before that. And then I went and did a master's in brewing and distilling in Edinburgh. I came back here then and I worked in a brewery or two in the UK for a short period. Then I came back here and worked for Carlow Brewing Company for 7 or 8 years. And the craft beer thing exploded at that time. So most people thought I was crazy working in a craft brewery because nobody knew what craft beer was. And while I was in O'Hara's, it exploded. I always had the ambition of having my own brewery in Longford. And then I was at Owen's wedding. And I let him
Yeah, no, actually, just when you're talking about that, I see a question in there from Michael. He said he's just wondering if it's the same yeast and barley in each beer and what we do. Like, this is more of a technical question for Liam, but it's literally infinite, the amount of combinations you can use, different types of malt, different types of yeast, everything else. There's 2 basic yeast families, but everything else is interchangeable. Liam, maybe go and feel that one a little bit.
It is infinite. There's like the base of beer, there's 4 ingredients in beer. Sorry, I jumped off camera. There's 4 ingredients in beer. There's barley or some other grain, but a starch source of some sort. Hops, yeast, and water. They're the 4 basic ingredients, and predominantly we use malted barley because malted barley is rich not just in starch but in enzymes again. And the enzymes break down the starch and give us sugar, and we feed the sugar to the yeast, and the yeast gives us back alcohol and carbon dioxide. That's how beer is made.
Traditionally, beer is malted barley in Western Europe, but like if you look at the East, it's rice. You know, the mass-produced stuff uses a high fructose corn syrup, stuff like that. You know, like those starch sources are there's lots of them, but your best beer is going to come from barley traditionally, isn't that it?
Well, you certainly get the richest flavor from malted barley. You can use, there's loads of different grains you can use. You can use rye. A lot of brewers use it. We did a trial recently where we used some rye in the beer. You can use wheat. A lot of our beers have wheat in it. Oats. We do quite a few beers with oats. You can use raw barley instead of malted barley. But yeah, there's infinite possibilities. And then there's how is the barley treated? So you have roasted barley, which is used in stouts. You have very lightly toasted barley, which is used in lager, and you have everything on the color spectrum in between. So there really is endless possibilities.
Okay, excellent.
Let's go back to your wedding, Noah.
Yes, back to my wedding and how we all got involved in this. Now that was 2010, and Liam, being the generous soul that he was, he decided to give me the loan of a bar, an entire bar setup, which he borrowed from his employers down in Carlow, and give me some cost price kegs. So I got 10. We emptied 6, 50 litres now, good big size kegs. And that was over 2 days. So yeah, after a lot of pints, a lot of drinking, we were more discussing. At the time, I would have been doing a bit of kit brewing maybe at home and stuff, bits and pieces, like just out of interest. And we were chatting about that. I knew Liam was up for this all the time. You know, that's why I went. I know him from years back in Maynooth. I see Thomas Carroll was in Maynooth as well. Come on, Tommy. How are you getting on? You know the crack. So we were drinking lots of Maynooth, and then we went to work for a while, and we kept drinking, and then we had a wedding, and he decided to make drink at that point. He was very, very good at it. It was almost as if you could make it for sale and sell it to the general public. So that's exactly what we decided to do. That was 2010, and I think we incorporated in January 13, and we started production in May 14. So like there's a lot of coming and going between everything else, and you know, Liam's a professional at that stage doing what he's trained to do. It's not for the light-hearted, and it's a difficult one to get into. There's an awful lot of lads at it at the moment, as everybody knows. It's a space that's filled up, but I don't know if the consumption or the demand has kept up with the amount of breweries out there and what they're offering, because it's a huge amount of beer. But it's slowly growing, and it seems to be catching up now, which is good. It's fantastic because it keeps everybody in business. It keeps everybody moving and being able to do what they want to do. And the Irish brewing scene is thriving off the back of it. Well, you know, so what we're doing here is with the rebrand. Well, it's not really a rebrand. We kept the brand. It's a redesign of the logo. We approached a brand development company. It is more. I like our old brand. It was quite good. It was artistic, but it wasn't really showing what we are and who we are. You'll notice on the new brand that it's very St. Mels up front. You have, I should have one in my hand, but it's St. Mels up front and in the middle, and Brewing right there. So at a distance, you know, if we're at a beer festival or even if we're at a trade show or something, people can see exactly who we are, what we are straight away. Whereas the other one was very artistic, but you know, do you know what it is? It was recognizable, and we kept elements in it. If you can find the crozier in the new logo, stick it on the chat. But that was the idea of what we're doing now is to launch the website and have a whole lot of different brand assets with a continuous and consistent team and colors and stuff like that behind it. So that's the idea behind the rebrand, in case anyone was wondering what we're doing, or redesign, I should say.
Yeah, amazing. No, they look brilliant. It looks absolutely fantastic, and delighted. It's great to see, and they're very striking. So it's brilliant. Just to go back, so I'll try and catch up on some of these comments here as well. I just wanted to clarify something, Liam. You said when you were working at O'Hara's, blew up. I just wanted to clarify it wasn't O'Hara's actually blew up. It was the craft beer scene that you were talking about that blew up.
It was the craft beer scene, although I did nearly blow up. I did nearly blow up a pub once.
Yeah.
I came back from the UK with flighty notions about cask ale. Probably because I was educated in brewing in Scotland, which is cask ale mad. So I wanted to reintroduce cask ale to Ireland. Nobody had done it in 30 years or 40 years, whenever Guinness moved to keg. So I convinced O'Hara's that this was a good idea. And I convinced the publican in Dublin, who at the time ran a place called the Bull and Castle. He now has 57, the headline, Jeff Carty, who's a good friend of mine. But I convinced him that he should start pouring cask, and he's really into his beer, so he was on for it too. So I put a beer into cask, and one of the things they do in the UK with their casks is they dry hop the casks. And I had got some experience of this. So we decided we'd dry hop this cask. But I didn't tell my brewer's assistant that you need to leave space in the cask for the dry hop. So he put in the dry hops, he put the bung in. He's a hardy little man. He can drive in a bung with one hammer. So he bunged it in. It wasn't going to come out, and we sent the cask up to Dublin. And we had to train Jeff how to open the cask. So I had explained it to him, and then gave him all the equipment he needed, the proper hammer and the proper spiles and the proper tap and all that. And I said, you just tap it in, tap in the spile on the top. Spile is a wooden peg that goes into the top of the cask. And then I said, tap in the hammer. He said, no problem. So we sent up the cask, and he went to tap it. And because there was so much pressure in the cask, beer coated the entire roof of his cold room. Ruben might have seen that cold room. Jeff still has a photograph of it on his phone. The entire cold room was covered in hops and beer. And Jeff didn't order a cask for a while after that. But that was the only blowing up I did.
Not surprised.
Shows you the difference between the Irish and the English beer scene, with, like, you know, over there you'd have trained cellarmen that know exactly what they're doing, whereas here we've just no idea how to handle that sort of product.
Well, we did, 2 generations ago, we were brilliant at it. And that's kind of where you hear people talking about, oh, he's a good barman and he pours a good pint. That all comes from then. It's not that difficult to pour a pint now, but in those days there was a real skill to it. And they had old casks and young casks, and they mixed the two to get the flavour right. But those skills are neither necessary nor desirable anymore.
Well, you see, we go around different customers we have, and we go into the back cold rooms, and we check every lines. We're cleaning lines constantly. The big boys have techs out there on the road doing that job, and you have an entire system down. The barman's job is just to pull the tap. Then that's it. If there's anything after that, they ring the tech. A lot of the time, that's just the way they want it, because they can keep that really consistent mass-produced product going out the same all the time. Yeah. Which is great from a business point of view if you're looking at it from their point of view as a mass market business. But, it's created the opportunity for craft brewers, because, you lose the freshness, you lose that, I suppose, uniqueness of the batches and this, like what you get with small batches, that kind of flavor, the skill of the brewer trying to bring through the same flavor from different batches of ingredients, different batches of malts. You know what I mean? Year to year, every year there's different weather all over the planet all the time. So we're getting ingredients all the time that's different. So like in our case and in most of the small brewers' cases, they're using their own skill to make a consistent product from different variations in the same ingredient all the time. Whereas in the large plants, they're using the chemical processes and process aids and chemistry, chemical engineering to create that consistent product all the time. It's very good from a sales point of view. But then they have to have that point to the end of the tap where they're in complete control of it. You know, it's the only way to do it.
But what Owen says is true as well. Like we independent brewers and small brewers, they adapt their process to suit the ingredients, whereas big multinationals and beer factories, they adapt the ingredients to suit their process, and that's really a massive difference between what we do and what they do.
Yeah, that's really interesting and excellent way of putting it. Yeah, it's really, really good.
I see a few people there asking.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brian. Just about the lockdown and how it's affected us.
What?
The lockdown, the pandemic, all this sort of crack. I haven't heard of this, but anyway, we're stuck in a shed in Longford making soup. But it has opened up an entirely new channel. We're here tonight because of it. We got the off license, the brewery retail off license, to allow us to do that. And now, you know, what have we? We've sold well over 100 of the launch boxes and we're engaging with people, and we're getting the message out. And, you know, it's different, but it's a good different. And anything that helps us as small producers cut through the noise and the mass market stuff is only a boon.
Yeah, absolutely. Just I can see Victor's comment there, just talking about the above water lager, saying you can only imagine this with scallops, like delicate flavor of the scallops be lifted at the end, at the same time create the perfect delicate balance of sweetness. Nice way of putting it. I'm thinking we should probably have a chat about Guanzo, and as I'm pouring that anyway, and as maybe other people are enjoying it, I'll try and catch up on a few comments here. So Richie was saying, yeah, everyone knows all the best ideas come after drinking lots of beer at weddings.
Right.
Yeah, I love how you got married first and then decided to open the brewery. So there was you were locked in.
Oh yeah, get the big deal signed first.
Yeah,
then you can worry about the side project.
Yeah. Yeah, Ruben is saying, yeah, he was in the Bull and Castle. He saw the aftermath. So he dropped in 20 minutes after it happened, and just realized it was 11 years ago. Oh,
wow.
Wild. Yeah.
It's a sober thought, Ruben.
Yeah.
Thanks, can we ban Ruben? Can we get Ruben out?
We'll kick him out.
It's my third child's 5th birthday today. That's what happens.
Okay, right. What have we got here? Guanzo.
Guanzo is another light lager. It's the same base beer as Above Water, but it's considerably different. Down to the conditioning. So we leave the lager yeast in this, and we condition it in the tank, which means we put the CO2 into it in the tank. We let the lager put the CO2 in, or the lager yeast put the CO2 into it in the tank, rather than putting it into a bottle and letting the yeast do its thing there. It's a bit more full-bodied than the Above Water because of that, because it has that yeast. It's a slightly different finish. Bit of a there's probably foodies here who can describe it better, but I think of it as a bit of a brioche finish, or a bit bready, and that's down to that cheese. It actually has the same hops. It has the same hops as the Above Water as well, but it doesn't come across as hoppy or as bitter. And you don't get that slightly white wine kick at the end that you get from the bottle conditioner. I drank a lot of this during the first lockdown, a lot of it, but it was completely healthy and lovely.
It's a lovely beer for a few evening drinks and fresh the next morning kind of thing.
Wednesday beer after mowing the lawn or something like that. It's perfect for that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Fresh as the next morning.
Yeah. Ruben is saying there it's a bit cleaner than the Above Water, or perhaps too much so. He said he prefers the Above Water.
I think the difference he's detecting is the bottle conditioning of the Above Water versus the the tank conditioning and go on. So I think
It does make a huge difference, bottle conditioning, and like we're very reluctant to move our core range out of bottles because of that. You see everybody going to cans. We may do the core range in cans, and it's mainly for transport purposes because the high level of breakages, and some people here might have experienced delays getting their cases, and I know some people didn't get them at all yet. It's because that it's very difficult to transport beer with lads in vans. But yeah, that glass finish, that yeast conditioning, the extra bit of kick, extra bit of finish it gives it. It also gives it a good bit of shelf life as well, because if you think that like the natural process of the re-fermentation inside the bottle is stripping out any oxygen that's there. You've got no O2 left in it whatsoever. As long as it's sealed, that stuff is bulletproof. It may change flavor profile away from what we wanted it to taste like, but from a food safety point of view, it's absolutely fine. So
Yeah.
This is the second beer we ever canned. So we did a can celebrate our 5-year anniversary last year. That last year? Summer before last.
Before that,
yeah. And then we did this beer in can last March, and that was very much with an eye on moving into the online market. But yeah, it's going very well in cans. Yeah.
Yeah. I just see Garrett saying DPD see a fragile sticker as a challenge.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that today, actually.
We didn't put it up because
we talk about it every day, actually.
It didn't look too good from a health and safety point of view, but there's a truck parked out the back, and I climbed up on top of the wagon and threw one of the freshly. It was a dummy box that had old beer in it, but the way we wrapped it, just to see, because we gave it some abuse beforehand, and we couldn't manage to break it, and it took me throwing it about 15 foot onto gravel to actually burst the thing. So whatever DPD are doing, I have no idea.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, so you kind of touched about it earlier, like the amount of new breweries out in the market and the things that are going on. Something we don't see too often is a light lager from a craft brewery or an independent brewery. What kind of inspired the decision behind that?
Hangovers.
There haven't been many. There haven't been many lagers brewed by independent breweries. I don't think, I'm not sure of this, but I don't think there was a brewery in Ireland doing a lager as part of their core range before we brewed Hellas, and that was the very first beer we did.
Yeah, O'Hara's came out with one just after you left them.
Yeah, or maybe just before. It was around that time. I didn't brew that. But and I had never brewed a lager before St. Mels Brewing Company, not in professional capacity. But I went on a trip to Munich in 2009 or 10, and went around all the beer halls over there and got a real love for proper lager. Before that, I was always into my ales. I was trained in Edinburgh, so that's ale country. Ireland has an ale tradition, if you include stout as an ale. And I'd never really appreciated lager properly before I went on that trip around Munich. But I came back with an absolute love for it. And so lager was always going to be one of the first beers I brewed. We now have 4 or 5 lager beers in our retinue.
Yeah, we nearly do as many lagers as anything else.
So we've almost become a bit of a lager brewery. It's just a style I love, and there's so much you can do and so many subtle differences you can do with it. And you'll see that as we taste these beers, they're all different. The opportunities with it are endless, even playing around with the different yeasts, and you get all these little subtle kicks and differences in lager that you can't get those nuances across in ale because the flavors are so bold. These little things would never shine through. So
it's something. This is more my opinion now, Brian. Liam will give you the full technical details, but the water supply where we are is quite soft, and it lends itself to lager very well. We can manipulate it with various salts and stuff like that to bring out the malts and what characteristics Liam wants in it. But the base water is quite good there.
Okay, excellent. Just on the lagers, yeah, Ruben was saying maybe Porterhouse had a few lagers out as well.
Oh, they did. They had a chiller lager actually. Sorry, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Onto the actual beer name itself. Go on. So, is it Father Ted influenced? There's a question from
No,
Jay.
it's the answer to the question, will you have a pint of beer? Now, in our case, it's more, will you have a cup of tea? Because it's a phrase that's used all the time in the brewery. Guanzo, Bon, so
Yeah, having your arm
um,
twisted.
yeah, that kind of thing. So like you have a pint, Guanzo. Yeah, so like it was just we were flailing around, and the thing about novelty names is that
Beer names are not our forte. If you look at the beers we've done, the original beers we've done were called Hellas Lager, Pale Ale, Brown Ale, IPA. So we never gave beer names. It was never something we put much work into.
Well, we didn't want to confuse people because we don't like being confused ourselves,
No.
which happens all the time. So to avoid confusion, we just call it what it is. But in the Guanzo, and then I will, yeah, and then the Asher look at, it's all a kind of off the cuff, kind of agreeable sort of phrase. That's really it.
Yeah, I think I did I send you the picture I saw in one of my local off licenses. It was they mashed together two of your beer names, and it was Asher Go On was the name on the label, like the pricing label underneath the can. I thought it was brilliant.
we had a lady ring the brewery one day looking for a case of Asher I will so.
Yeah,
so that's why we have colours on the labels to simplify things.
The red one, the blue
give
one.
us the green one.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, John is saying he's come to really appreciate lagers in the last 2 years.
Good
Ruben
man,
is
John.
saying,
Lagers are amazing.
yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Ruben is saying Pauline reckons you should rename the Hellas to Seriously Good Lager.
Pauline, she's right about the lager, but her name choosing is almost as good as ever.
Richie's saying names like that are a real American microbrewer thing. Is it just all independent brewers?
Yeah, it's independent brewers certainly use their names to stand out, and sometimes that goes horribly wrong. You get these really, cringy names or misogynistic or things they're designed to offend or catch the eye with the names they use. Nothing springs to mind actually. This is being recorded and I'm not going to swear. But the idea of our name, it was a similar idea. Let's catch the eye with the name, and let's
we didn't want to go too hairy baby with it now, with the full Father Ted.
Yeah.
Like there's a line.
There is a fine line. And there's a finite number of those names, and I think we're getting to the end of that.
Yeah, the Paddy Wackery is well and truly done. We don't want to appropriate our own culture and misrepresent it.
Yeah,
you just start mashing your names together, so you'll get your light Bock lager, which is Asher Go On, and that's
all happening. We've caused more confusion than we ever wanted.
We ran on that line. We have a new beer out. We'll get to it afterwards. It's not in the box, but just canned yesterday. It's an IPA, big hazy, double IPA. My Twist, which again is the answer to the question: would you have a pint? This time you're saying, "Oh, My Twist," So.
Very good.
We were going to call it. It's not my fucking round.
Yeah, take off.
That's the usual response.
I've had enough.
Thomas was asking any sign of a good Bohemian Pilsner, like Pilsner Urquell.
Oh, Thomas, you've laid down the gauntlet. Fire Lager is the closest thing we do to that, and we'll be tasting that later on. That's inspired by Pilsners. It's not a pure Pilsner style. I prefer slightly maltier lagers. That's probably why we haven't done one, to be honest. Not saying never. We might as well do all the lagers.
Yeah, well, they're a bit sharper. That they're a bit full bodied, and Liam's technique is he leans towards the malt base, and the Hellas brings it out far better. Plus, we've excellent malt in this country, and to show that off is a great thing to do. Now, the Fire is as near to a Pilsner as we have in our locker at the moment. Um, we could probably push the boat out a little bit more in that sharp flavor profile, but yeah, at the minute it's we're on the kind of light lager kick and getting a few IPAs out, more drinkable things, the kind of juicy things. But yeah, is that in fact the next beer we're doing? No.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that brings us nicely into the next section. Are we going for the Hellas or yeah, well, you tell me. What are we going for?
I'd say we go for the Fire first, would be my advice.
I must stress to everybody, you're not expected to drink 12 drinks tonight in the space of 2 hours.
You don't have to drink them all.
Yeah.
We're just kind of going through the whole thing and pick them out of the box as you like. But it's going to be the Hellas, the Fire, then we're getting into the Bock Lager to finish off the lagers. It'll be the Pale Ale after that and the Juicy I Will, yeah. And then we're into the IPA. You are required to drink the brown ale at the end of the night, so keep a little bit of room for that, because that's what we're finishing off on. And it's our signature beer.
Yeah, and a brown ale is mandatory for any sort of crack meetup as well, so it ties in nicely. It has to happen at the end.
There just aren't enough brown ales in the world.
Yeah, don't get me started, Liam.
We already make the best one in the world. So
sorry, that's a bit of an
well, that's it. Okay,
let's not skip ahead to brown ale. Let's stay on Fire Lager. So, one of the main men in Fire Lager is a man called Pádraig O'Kane, who's a Longford man, and he came to us when he heard about St. Mels Brewery, and he challenged us to make a lager for his restaurant, which is Fire 1864 in Dublin. Called 1864, because that is the year that the supper room on the Mansion House was built. The supper room, not the Mansion House, the supper room. And you see this room, it's unbelievable. The decor is unbelievable, but the size is unbelievable. You see 300 or 400 people. Those magnificent steaks.
The best steaks.
And magnificent beer. But I'm always struck by the Lord Mayor having a supper room that seats 300 or 400 people.
It's also where the first sitting of the Dáil took place.
Well, that was in the round room.
Well, out the
which
back.
is behind it, yeah.
That got a revamp at the same time to fit Queen Victoria.
Somebody burned it down or something.
Something happened, yeah. I can't
imagine. But so Fire Restaurant moved into the supper room. Not exactly sure by what year. 10 years ago, 11 years ago, something like that. 2005.
2005 or 6, isn't it?
Or 15 years ago.
It's around a while,
yeah. So they came to us and asked us to brew the lager for. We did a couple of trial brews. They were quite particular, but we got it over the line with them, and they were delighted with the finished product. Big selling beer for them. Owen could give you numbers. I think it's the biggest selling beer in the place.
Oh yeah, we've basically in the first year as well to test the water we put in the bottles, and the Hellas Lager was really popular. And then we put in a tap of the Hellas Lager, and Richie, I think he was on the call here. Hey, Richie is the executive chef in Fire, and he fries up the steaks. So he was full of.
He's also the reason Fire Lager is the biggest selling beer in the.
He's saying there, to be honest, the staff drink the vast majority of it.
But yeah, like Richie developed a taste for it, and it really lends itself well to the steaks. And the lads are using Hereford Prime dry aged steaks. It's really flavoursome beef. Some of the best out there. Grass fed Irish beef is best on the planet, really.
Owen's a beef farmer, by the way.
We do raise beef, Hereford beef cattle.
Hereford beef, actually.
But not anymore since we trampled all the grass. So it was a kind of a perfect marrying together of a local. If you knew the lads up there, and the same lads with the guys in Seoul, they're using all fresh local catch fish. Boys in Fire are using all fresh local beef. It's even down to the water is fresh Irish spring water from a different source. Everything in there is local, and they really do the best to promote local produce. So, it was a perfect marrying of the two, and what led into that relationship was the Helles Lager, just because it was got good, clean, easy drinking, steak, quality, palate cleansing sort of, but it's tasty all the same. It was just really refreshing beer for a big juicy tomahawk steak.
Yeah, that's my first time sampling that now. It's absolutely beautiful, lovely beer.
Yeah, we didn't have it. We never put it into off licenses because it was an exclusive by a restaurant, but it is available on the web store.
John's saying he's hungry now. Maybe Richie might block his ears for this minute, but would there be any plans to make that more widely available?
It's available already on the web shop, and we're also doing mini kegs of it for Christmas.
Okay, excellent.
The 5 liters mini kegs. So yeah, no, the lads have absolutely no problem getting the brand out there and getting the beer out there. Same with the water, It was developed to complement their menu, but there's no reason why it couldn't be a commercially viable beer either.
Yeah. Ruben was saying great restaurant, by the way, and that was before he knew Richie was on the call, so that's a good sign about fire. John's saying he's hungry now. Garrod is asking how are the mini kegs selling?
Selling well, they're popular. The thing with the mini keg, if it's your week's beer, they're not suitable. But if it's two people and you're going to sit down for the evening and have a couple of beers together, they're ideal, perfect. So great for sharing with somebody else. We do the pale ale, the Hells, the IPA, brown in them at the moment, and we're about to launch the fire in them. Hugely popular, and they're a bit of a novelty too. And people are getting draft beer at home, so they're great. Yeah.
Michael is asking, he's a bit of a novice, a bit of a beginner, a bit of a slow learner, and he's wondering about what does lager mean?
That's a good question. I'll attempt to answer it succinctly. So, lager and ale are both types of beer, and lager is down to the yeast that's used. So you can have black lagers. It's all about the yeast. Lager yeast operates at a low temperature, and it's a slightly different strain to ale yeast. And it's brewed at low temperature and conditioned for a long time to get that very nice, clean flavor. There are lots of other differences that I won't worry about. Typically, lagers are very light in color, but that's not all there is to lager. Ruben's right. That's basically what lager means, is to store. So there were beers that were fermented for a long period of time. We do ours for about 6 weeks, but in the days before refrigeration, lagers were put into caves, and where it was colder, and they were left there all winter, and then taken out in the summer. And you'll see when we get to Springbok, that's that style of beer is about. But it's mostly about the yeast.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So just catch up on that. Yeah, specifically the term lagered. Just to store it for a period of time, really.
On my previous point there, the difference between macro and small batches, we do store that beer for 4 to 6 weeks. There's 4 in the tank and then 2 in the bottle. That's a minimum. Your Heineken's or your other mass-produced lagers, they're straight in, straight out of the tank. It's a 48-hour process. Liam might know a bit more about that side of things, but I do know that Budweiser were trying to develop an open flow process where they literally pour and work in the top. As it filters down, it's maturing and it's fermenting, and open pour out the bottom. So if you can imagine a massive vat where they're literally pumping it in the top and pouring it out the bottom and hopping it into bottles and off you go. That's a different product to a 4 to 6 week matured, stored lager beer,
That's called continuous brewing, and it was invented by the Australians, actually the Tasmanians, the late 1970s, I think it was. The beer that resulted from it was reputedly awful, so they stopped brewing. And nobody's ever attempted it since. But your normal macro lager, I say normal, your average industrial lager probably from start to finish takes 5 to 7 days. And it's
I'd
down
say
to
you're
that.
being generous there, to be honest.
It's down to that thing I spoke about, where you adjust the ingredients to suit your process. That's what to do with that. So, and we adjust our process to suit the ingredients, and that's why we store for such a long time.
Okay,
that's why ours is better.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But like, we're prepared to put that, our very, very limited tank space and tie it up for that length of time to produce that product that is that much better. Like, so, you can't get into this argument in a shop with somebody who's arguing with you over 50 cents on a can of beer. But like, you have to do it, or otherwise you just wouldn't be able to make it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of love for this so far anyway, for the fire lager. People really enjoying it.
It really washes the steak down well.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can nearly taste the steak beside it. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, the lads are saying, so Ruben is saying at Fire they have this and Hella's alongside or side by side on tap. Lovely stuff. Andrew was asking, any sign of your Schwartz beer coming back this winter?
That'd be nice.
Not this winter. I really like that beer. I was really happy with it. We've got some new beers coming out before Christmas. So our how would you put it? Our rota is full. Our rota is full. So for this winter, the Schwartz beer might make a reappearance in 2021. We're going to have to.
Well, one thing that we have noticed that a lot of people, especially people kind of new to the thing, or that are new to online shopping for beer, or getting their stuff delivered, are going for mixed cases and stuff because they're hitting on a brewery. They're saying, right, what's a mixed case of a taste of what they do, and then they might develop a favorite after that. So on that, we did a dark beer series, and we had 6 beer recipes developed and labels and all done for it. And we only got 3 of them out because the rest of them were too big and too dark, and we couldn't get a volume customer to take it up off us up front to make it viable. But I don't know if people might remember, the Slow Burner was in there, the IPA, the dark IPA, we did the black IPA, and the Schwartz beer. So we'll revisit those recipes and maybe bring them out in a mixed case product for another dark beer sampler that people might be able to pick up later on.
Excellent. I'm thinking, I know we've got 3 beers in this category, so we might need to have a look. What are we going on to next? The Hellas?
Hellas Lager in its new
suit. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't got any. I didn't bring any. I won't have one.
I just have to nip out and get one, actually, because I keep my beers outside in the winter.
So we gave our beers a new suit, obviously. So the Hellas Lager, while Owen's gone, I'll tell you a story about the Hellas Lager label. When we went to get the labels for the first time, Owen went up to the printing factory and he rang me and he said, "What shade of blue do we want on the Hellas Lager?" And I said, "Get the bluest blue you can." So he came back with the labels, and it was the definition of blue. We brought the labels home, and our wife said, "Why did you get purple labels on the lager? I thought you were getting blue." We said, "No, this is blue." But then other people said, "Why did you get purple labels?" And we said, "That's the definition of blue." But in the end, we had to lighten it so that people realized it was blue. So this time round, we went for a very dark blue. And if Owen holds up the label,
I don't have it in my hand.
You don't have it either?
Yeah.
Okay.
Has
anybody got it?
Yeah, I can see it.
There you go. I showed it to my wife. What's the first thing she said? "Why did you get a purple label?"
Your eyes are wrong. That's what she said.
My lighting isn't the best in this room here now. I'm gonna have to inspect it under better light.
Yeah.
It is dark, but that's literally what you get when you ask for the bluest blue in the book of blue. You get purple.
Sasha's saying it's purple. Looks purple to me. Just saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so right, I'll catch up with the comments here quickly, and then you can maybe tell us a bit more about the beer itself. Well, John is asking, are you going to need more tanks? That's a good
That
question.
would be a nice problem to have.
Yeah.
Jason there confirming my theory on mixed cases.
Yeah. 12 a single beer is a lot. Yeah, no, that it's
unless you've decided on that's your favorite beer. That's understandable, you know. So
yeah, unless it was the brown ale.
Unless it's a brown ale.
Yeah.
And then we know you're serious.
A bit of love for a Rauch beer. That could be interesting one. Richie was asking what's the other one in this category. So we've got the Springbok as well to come still.
That's coming along.
To come after. But yeah, so the beer itself, Liam, what have we got here?
Helles Lager. So this is the one. Helles is a Munich style beer. Helles means light, and that just refers to the color. It doesn't necessarily refer to the strength. In fact, it definitely doesn't refer to the strength when you're over there. One of them that I particularly love over there is Augustiner. For me, it's the quintessential Helles Lager. It's quintessential lager for me, and it's distinctive in its breadiness. So I just see Ruben's comment there. It's always somebody who knows everything, isn't it? So lost my train of thought. I'm so angry about the
Augustiner Helles, bready.
Yeah, so Augustiner Heller is quintessential Helles Lager. So I came back inspired by that, and that's I said to Owen, one of our first beer is going to be a Helles Lager, and he went okay. So we brewed it, and it wasn't the first beer we sold in the shops because the ales were ready quicker. But it was the first mash we put on, and we were delighted with it from day one. And it's been a flagship beer for us, really. It's our biggest selling beer, I think. Yeah, so great beer. It's the really important thing with it again is the water. And the Munich style water has a certain minerality that the Pilsner style doesn't have. So, like, Helles Lager was developed by the brewers of Munich to compete with the Pilsner style lagers that had come out of the Czech Republic. And they actually, I can't remember if they paid him or kidnapped him, but they got a brewer from Pilsner and brought him down. And he figured out that the malt around Munich was better than the malt around Czech Republic, so that you could get more out of the malt and get more flavor and depth from the malt than you necessarily could out in the Czech Republic. So he really invented his style. I wish I could remember his name, but I've never gone. Something German or Czech, anyway. So that's the background of it.
Now, just on the whole thing there, Liam, and this is something I'm just curious about myself. This is kind of an ongoing learning curve I'm on when it comes to beer. Liam's slightly ahead of me. On the traditional German lagers, the traditional Pilsner lagers, that kind of stuff are coming out of southern Germany and the Czech Republic. That would never have been previously exported outside of those regions. How was it that those beers are so readily available now all over the world? Is it production or?
No, it's definitely not
packaging.
Production. It's definitely not packaging. It's popularity. One thing that changed beer forever was the invention of clear glasses and the introduction of clear glasses. So in the Middle Ages and up until the Industrial Revolution, everybody drank their beer out of a mug. It was cloudy and it was dark in color. And when clear glass came along and people drank out of clear glasses, they prized the lighter color beers and they prized clarity in their beers. And that's what brought the lagers on ahead of ales. So and the other big thing is that it's their accessibility in terms of their flavor. That's the other big thing that makes them popular. So and the trend had been then from about 1920 to about 1985 or 1990. Trend was always more accessible until you ended up with dishwater, which is what we were all faced with. Around the time we went to college, it was just everybody just drank dishwater beers.
2 quid pints of Foster's. I remember them well.
Foster's, 10-inch Dutch Gold, and all that sort of crap. and then of course then the yo-yo effect of that was that people are now more interested in much more flavoursome beers, and they're looking for flavour when they're drinking. So, but that going back to your original question, it was all about the clear glass, and people were drinking with their eyes for the first time.
Yeah, and plus it's an interesting point, and it comes to like, you know, appeal and saleability and all those sort of things. Plus the, you know, you're getting something on. What, 60s, 70s, would you get a lager outside of a rare bottle inside of a pub in Longford or in Ireland?
They have been introduced a few times and failed in Ireland, probably because the proper methods to making them wasn't fully understood. And German lads were going to come over here and teach Irish brewers how to wipe their eye for them.
Yeah.
And importing beer then wasn't as easy as it is now. So you couldn't get a trailer load of beer over from Germany just handy. So I somebody else on here might know the history a bit better, but I think some of the big breweries in Ireland were making lagers in the 1920s and 1930s. Failed attempts, they didn't go well, but they had tried because they could see the trend.
Okay.
Anybody know?
We'll see in the comments if anyone can chime in there. I'm not sure about the Irish brewers now whatsoever. That wouldn't be my bag.
There was a lager in the 1960s called Time, Time. It might have been from the Phoenix Brewery. I'm not sure what brewery it was from. Harp was introduced, I think, in the 70s, maybe in the 60s, but there was definitely attempts long before that.
I see some Jason asking there about the Middle Ages. People drank beer rather than water because of the, you know, the waterborne diseases. That and beer is sterile once it comes out of the vat. It would have developed more depending on the area you're in. Germany was definitely a high waterborne disease, high density population area. Same with the likes of Amsterdam and up around those like Central European, highly densely populated spots. But other than that, as from anything I've read on the history of things, it was individual beer houses or, you know, beer wives or whatever they were called, used to, you know, if you got to a region, they were very proud of their beer, and they'd have somebody there making it and specific from whatever ingredients were around them. You might know a bit more about that, Liam.
No, keep talking. It's amazing. Fascinating.
Are you mesmerized? Good. Well, we get asked about the ecclesiastical connection with St. Mels as well from time to time, because the clerics were known to have made beer, and in many cases they had a monopoly on making fermented product. Going back into medieval times. So, yeah, again, it would have been very local and very specific to a region. So you have traditions like you have the Trappist tradition in Belgium would be the most well known of those. You have them everywhere. There's an ecclesiastical connection in a lot of brewery brands that are well known, especially around from Northern and Central Europe. But that wasn't the driving force behind us choosing St. Mels. It was really a marker of where we're from, because you had to go back 1,600 years to find the famous Longford man, unfortunately.
Until you two came along, of course.
We couldn't call it Beckler and Ernie Brewing Company. So.
No, we've had a few show jumpers, but that's about it.
Liam,
Eddie Mackin won a medal, I think.
Liam, I see you've moved on.
I have. Let's all move on from that.
Okay, right.
Historical interlude.
You're welcome.
I'm on the Asher Luckett. This is its new suit.
Yeah, I was going to say that
probably have its old suit. Yeah,
that looks different to mine.
Yeah, you have the old suit. It's got a new suit. We put it on it yesterday.
Ah, very nice, very nice.
Just aligning it with our evolved brand. Just people keep asking us why we got rid of the Crozier. You might see there we did not get rid of the Crozier. Crozier is the
sneaky bit of design magic.
Jed, the Bock. Bock is a malty beer. It's all about the malt. Again, it's a Munich area of Germany. And again, it's that trip around Munich that inspired me to brew a Bock. When we started, did a seasonal range, and we were looking for beers to do around the season. So we did a raisin and oatmeal stout for winter. We did a beer garden wait with elderflower in the summer. We did an autumn IPA, and for spring we did what we call the spring Bock. And what that relates to is my Bock style of beer. So my Bock or May Bock was the beer, the last brew that was put down before winter began, and it was the first one they drank after winter in the spring. And that's what this beer is. So it's a very subtle hop bitterness. It's all about the malt, and it's all about the body. And the way we get the body into it is we brew the beer at a higher temperature. So we mash in at a higher temperature, and that affects the enzymes, which are very important. That affects the enzymes, and they leave us with a type of sugar called dextrin, rather than the sugars that yeast can eat. It leaves us with dextrin, which yeast can't eat. And those sugars give us the body of this beer. We changed it. We had it in bottle for years. It was our biggest selling seasonal beer, and it was hugely popular. And when we decided to do cans, we decided this is perfect for cans. And because it's not bottle conditioned, that vinous flavor is gone, which really suits the beer because it brings out a kind of honey-like finish in the beer. Yeah, it's one we're very proud of. One I drink a lot of, actually.
Yeah, it's a beautiful beer, absolutely gorgeous, and it's
gold medal winner in I don't know. It won some medals.
2016 down in Kerry, the lads down in the INEC there had, it was their 3 or 4 years in a row they had an independent Irish All-Ireland Beer Fest, and it was well supported and well represented by all the breweries that were established and opening up at the time. It was sponsored by Carryout, if I remember rightly. And James, they had a top brewer, if you remember. I don't remember. He's gone now. Anyway, he had a kind of an orangey stout. He was only a young chap. And,
James Brown.
That's right, James Brown.
Chocolate Iron Stout, was it? Or
yeah. No, he was the first brewer down there that came in with the big stout. But we won the lager section in there, and at that time, now they had some decent judges over. They had a heavy hitter from Holland over, and a couple other lads, and a field of 22, I think, different Irish lagers. And
Ruben was a judge. Were you a judge, Ruben?
Got the gold there. You can unmute Ruben there. He can sing the virtues of it.
Let's see, where is he?
Maybe he might be. Oh, he's out. Oh, he's back. He's back with a Bock now. I see him.
Oh, Thomas saying they had me judging, lads, so it's not that prestigious.
Oh, well,
sorry, Thomas.
Had to be
What's the question?
Oh, Ruben's back.
You were there for the judging of the Bock beer back in 2016 down in Killarney.
Oh yeah.
And we're just wondering what sort of characteristics you were looking at and how the Bock fielded in there was a big field of lagers there.
Well, the difference is I wasn't judging, I was organizing it. So other people did the judging while I organized the whole thing. So I'm not sure that I actually tasted it personally. I'm sure I did, but
you could have just
I could just that's not my
make something up, Ruben.
I was looking for a buckiness that I thought was quite...
We only asked you because we know you're honest, Ruben.
I can't take him anywhere.
Yeah, mute Ruben there. Mute Ruben.
Okay,
Ruben. I know, go.
Cheers, Ruben.
Yeah.
We had that chair that your man Graham Norton has on TV.
Oh yeah, the red chair. Brilliant. Yeah, Gareth, I mute Ruben. I just want to go back up because it was a lovely comment I saw earlier. I don't want to miss it. Victor was saying he'll be very honest. His wife tasted your beers and she was really impressed. Her exact words were, "I'm not a beer person, but this is something that will make me change my mind."
We get an awful lot of that.
Yeah.
Especially at beer festivals or not so much beer festivals, but food festivals, stuff like that, where we'd have a stand and people come and take a taste. And we get a lot of, oh no, I'm driving. And I'm like with a thimble full of beer going, this isn't really going to do much to you. The next one is, oh, that's quite nice. I don't drink beer. And okay. Or I hate that. And I don't drink beer. So like it's, you know, we're trying to convert as many people as we go along.
Yeah. That, if you ever make a non-alcoholic beer, by the way, that's your names. Oh no, I'm driving. Or
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Or are you on the antibiotics? Is the other one. Yeah. So Alan's saying, "Geez, that's a fine beer." Richard's saying you have a monopoly on beer-related religious experiences, and Garrett saying you should do a collab with
Good for you, Richard.
Yeah.
You can fill us in the details in the private messages.
Yeah.
Richie's come up with a very good name for 0-0 beer. Are you pregnant?
Are you pregnant for the alcohol? Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, Garrett is saying you should do a collab with Mescal or Meskin.
Yeah, no, I saw that message. The boys of Meskin, they're really good. And Adonis, the Belgian chap, and Kira, or Killian.
Killian, yeah.
Really, really nice fellas. And you know, they're laboring over their beer. They're making beers and taking a long time over some, finishing them out. The lads love what to do. They're making really good stuff. I'd be really up for that.
Yeah, absolutely. We had them on the last beer festival actually, and I think they were brewing like in full kit, brewing for 3 years or something before they even opened, before they sent anything out. Like crazy stuff. Yeah. But that's how much they stress over it, and they love the beer.
Well, you can see the Belgian influence now. I haven't visited the site yet, but I know that the lads keep some of their fermenters outside, just trying to get all the natural Belgian-y goodness in there. But the methods, you know, and it's just a different method to ourselves. But yeah, collaborations of that quality could bring nothing but class beer.
Yeah, something we'd love to see. I think we kind of touched on it earlier, but tell us a bit about, I suppose, the decision behind the rebrand of and the website. I kind
of touched on it before. It was identifiability was the main criticism, was that we had both ourselves and from other people of what's that, you know. And I'm not talking about being in a beer factory, you know, in a beer festival, or being in an off license, because you're there, people are looking for beer, they expect it. You could stick a blank page up, they know it's beer. It's more for how to be recognized in the business world, how to be recognized at other trade things, like a food festival, which, you know, it's big business for tourism as well, or we might not necessarily be in a drinking environment. So to have the name front and center, and to have what we do front and center, and to get away from the idea of being craft beer, because that's been usurped by big beer. And also it has connotations of home brewing, which we're not. We're a commercial setup. We're an industrial, small scale, but high quality industrial setup. So to get that message across, and we had a bit of downtime after COVID hit, and Board Bia and a few other state bodies had earmarked money for getting lads online. And to get online and use social media and use everything else, we needed a coherent brand and all the assets that would fit in that. You know, you're going down to your color palette, you're going down to your brand design, has to be web friendly, has to be mobile friendly, all this sort of stuff. So to use that time and to use the resources that were given to us by various state agencies, that's where it came from.
Okay, excellent. And don't mention the color palette when it comes to the Hellas now.
We changed the brown on the brown, if anybody wants, you know. It's the brownest brown.
More brown or less brown?
I don't think it's very brown at all. I think it's more of you're getting towards the green end of the spectrum. But that's just me. dark green. It's more organic brown, is what I meant.
Yeah. Okay, of course. I'm thinking we should probably start moving on through into the pale ales. Just while we're doing that, Ruben was saying Pauline just tasted the Bock. Said I like that a lot. Keep some of that for me. So that means high praise, basically. Garrod is asking any backlash from Athlone for using the Mels name.
St. Mel's original church was in Ard Village, where I went to national school. So that's where he's from. So it's actually the other way around. Athlone, he co-opted the name from Arda. I'm an Ardonian, and Athlone is in the diocese of Arda and Clonmacnoise. So they should really know better.
I live in Athlone. I'm not as confrontational. Just for all the Athlone people out there, we love you too.
Yeah, my wife is from Athlone, so I wouldn't dare speak ill against them.
St. Mel's in Athlone. You had St. Mel's Soccer Park, and there was quite, years ago there was quite a rough area around that. So St. Mel's has slightly different connotations in Athlone. So when I first told people in Athlone that I was calling the brewery St. Mel's, they were kind of agog. That's not a very good brand, because they didn't know that they didn't know the whole history of St. Mel and all that. So we persevered, and now it has only good connotations.
This is it. You changed the face of it and changed the connotations around it.
We changed St. Mel's image in Athlone.
That's it. Okay, so which pale ale are we starting on as we transition across?
Let's start with the bottle, St. Mel's Pale Ale.
Okay, excellent.
Which is in a inarguably green label, I hope.
It looks a little blue to me.
I'm very close to storming out of this webinar. Very close, but this is the first beer we sold, St. Mel's Pale Ale. When I started brewing in Ireland, there was no pale ale; it didn't exist in this country, apart from Smithwick's, which wasn't branded as a pale ale. And the first pale ale I ever brewed professionally in Ireland was for O'Hara's. It was called Good Store Pale Ale, and it's inspired. Although the history of pale ale is from the British Isles, this one is very much inspired by the west coast of America. So your Sierra Nevadas, there's a nod to Pliny in there, or Russian River Brewing. So a slightly sweet malt base, nice hop bitterness, and a nice hop aroma with Cascade hops. It's a classical pale ale. We've changed it recently. We changed one of the hops, so we changed from one of the hops, the flavoring hop, from Chinook to Simcoe. And I think that's made a big difference to this pale ale. Actually, it's brought it on a little bit. People often ask what the difference between a pale ale and an IPA is, and it's really the hop profile. A pale ale, for me, a pale ale should be balanced between malt and hops, and an IPA, the hops should be singing, and that's the main difference for me. But yeah, this pale ale is very popular as well. It's probably our second biggest selling beer. Easy drinking, accessible. It does what it says in the tin, but it's just a classic West Coast pale ale.
Okay, yeah, beautiful beer, and I'll be honest, it's a while since I've had it, and it's gorgeous. Yeah, really enjoying it.
Yeah,
It's one,
a difference to us.
Yeah.
when we were starting out, the first 3 or 4 years, we did a lot of in-store tastings, and I would have done a lot of that, where you're standing in an offie a Friday evening and people are coming in for their Friday evening beers, or people are coming in to get something for a present or something for the weekend, and it was the pale ale every time that people were going for. Like, it was, some people would have a bit more knowledge in, they'd go for different styles of beer, but across the board, the pale ale is just that very accessible, it's not what you think it's going to be. you think it might be bland, or you think it might be too hoppy, too much. People have an idea that craft beer is going to be too much for their palate. Either that, or they think it's going to be bland if they know craft beer. So, but it's perfectly split down the middle, and it's really well balanced. And what Liam did lately with the hop profile, as he mentioned, has brought it on another step.
Yeah. And Liam, the decision to switch from Chinook to Simcoe, was that, obviously it was a conscious decision, but how did that come about? What was the thinking behind it?
Yeah, good question. I suppose all the beers I do tend to evolve, so I'm always tinkering around the edges of the recipes. It's rare I would do something as drastic as change a hop, but I've been playing around with the salts in the pale ale, and I just felt it was missing something in the middle of the taste, and at the end, and I thought what it was missing was at the back of the throat, which is why I was playing around with the salts. Because normally when it's something down here in your throat that you want to get up, I phrased that weirdly, but in terms of flavor, not in terms of something that you want to get up. But when you want to get flavor down here, it's usually around the minerality of the beer that you're adjusting, or sometimes the sweetness. But I just thought it needed something in terms of flavor, and I wasn't getting that from the sauce. So I said I'd try a new hop. Simcoe was a hop I'd been playing around with anyway, and we tried that out in it. And I was very happy with the results, so that was it. It's staying in now.
Yeah, well, rightly so. I think it brings out that American West Coast profile, that flavor that we were going for. It's universally well recognized and liked flavor profile in beers.
Also, the pale ale is also the style that people who don't know a huge amount about beer understand, and they know they like a pale ale. So it tends to be, if somebody's not sure which beer to go for, they'll go for the pale ale first. So
yeah,
I don't think there's a brewery in the country now that doesn't have.
A lot of people ask us what the difference between an IPA and a pale ale is.
I covered that way.
But I was going to say that's usually the second question from what is a pale ale. Firstly, so sorry, I was restocking.
No, you're grand. Just
for a comfort break on, as somebody says.
Nice to have the luxury.
Yeah.
I think no, Liam, you put it there very well. It's more I suppose it's more of a balance of malt and hops in the pale ale, whereas the IPA, it's much more hop forward. The hops kind of singing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Now there's all kinds of other branches of pale ales and IPAs, and we'll be going on to. Actually, the next one we're going to isn't balanced at all.
What would be the IBU on that, Liam? Just out of interest. Just if you were to, we don't go for this on our brand, and we don't go for this, bitterness units or whatever. A lot of people kind of put a scale on it, but
I have to admit, I don't generally. I use IBUs as a yardstick when I'm designing a recipe, but they're very rarely high in my thoughts.
Yeah. Well, it's not an exact science on a label.
But even
it's a range, really.
Even when I'm working with a recipe, I don't put a huge amount of thought into how many IBUs. I probably think for pale ale, I'd be thinking 35 to 45. I think that one's probably around the high 30s.
High 30s, low 40s.
It's not something I put a huge. I used to think about it a lot. I used to be very militant about IBUs and all that, but I don't think they're as important as people used to believe.
No.
And I think actually the evolution of beer in the last 10 years has shown that people don't worry about them as much. It was a huge selling point for these high IBU IPAs, mad bitterness in the late 90s, early 2000s in the US.
And do you know anything about where did the International Bitterness Unit scale come from? Well, was it a mass? The IBU scale, did it come from mass marketers trying to pinpoint what the best?
IBUs.
Where did that come from?
No, it's the bitterness unit thing goes back to the 1920s. I can't remember the exact history of it, but they were trying to put science behind profiling beers so that they could be recreated exactly the same. It was about getting consistency, and one thing they were struggling to get consistency around was the bitterness in their beers. So that's where IBUs came from. So they could have a standard. All industries look for standards, and that was the standard they came up with at the time.
Yeah.
But obviously I look at the alpha acids
Would that scale would have changed though with the new variations of hops that have been?
No. The scale is the scale, but
is the upper level of bitterness not being pushed all the time? The ceiling there.
There's no ceiling on how much bitterness you can put into something. There's a ceiling about when the tongue stops being able to differentiate between different.
So does it go from no taste?
If you go above 100, going from 100 to 120.
How can you go above 100? Surely this scale has to. You can't go to 11 on the hops.
Go to 111.
It's not degrees Celsius.
Of course, to 11. You can't do that.
But if when you're at that level, 100 to 120, your tongue can't discern the difference. So this is what I was getting to. So,
that's my point.
In the early 2000s, brewers in America were using bitterness units to sell their beer. This one's 100, this one's 120, this one's 150. But there was, and I gone over and tried them, and there was really no difference between any of them. So
because your tongue was numb and your esophagus was worn out with alpha acids.
Your tongue was just, it was like trying to think of something to say that's not scandalous, but it was worn out.
It is a thing, and it's something I noticed even before I knew anything about beer, that the danger is when new things, everybody's looking to be the new most bitter thing, or to be the sourest sour, or to be the most chocolatey stout, or you know what I mean. Pushing the envelope, it's natural, fair enough, it's grand, but we don't want to do that. We want to make balanced, nice beers that bring out the profile of that in its purest form according to the recipe, and once you vary outside of that, you're into a new beer. You're into a new style of thing. So either do what it is, or stop trying to push the envelope so much that you're just annoying people. That's my opinion.
No, but there's nothing wrong with that either. That's innovation. That's what leads to new styles. And people that do that, we kind of stand on their shoulders when they come up with a new style. I think the next beer we're kind of standing on the shoulders of people who do it a bit. So
fair enough.
Not that we're against that.
I wouldn't say we're against that either, but like Liam is coming from the point of view of an innovator, a brewer. I'm coming from the point of view of somebody that likes to drink nice beer and also likes to let other people drink nice beer and not to overpower them with geekiness or anything else. In recipe development, that's fine. But if you're trying to explain this to a 6-year-old housewife at a food festival, give
taste the cabin.
Taste this.
Taste the cabin.
She'll start hitting you with her
handbag. Taste the cabin.
Yeah, I think there's innovation and there's just plain silly, and just because you can
this is it. So
you should do it really.
But it all leads to evolution and changing. So
yeah, absolutely. Well then, where do you draw the line between the two? It's a tricky balance.
It's blurred.
Of course, you have to have a bit of crack with it as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Speaking of balance, a lot of nice comments for the pale ale. Thomas saying lovely bitterness to it. Lovely balance. Neil saying nice balance between the malt and hops. Andrew saying love having your pale ale on draft in Blessings in Cavan. It's his first stop there, and the only craft beer you can get in the town.
Yeah.
Cheers, Andrew. Thank you.
Yeah.
We Blessings was one of the first taps we ever opened, and it's been with us ever since. Great pub. If you're ever in Cavan, go to it when they open again.
John is asking, are Liam and Eoin going to have a Barney now? All I can say to that is that it's this kind of vigorous discourse that keeps St. Mels Brewing as fresh and funky as ever.
If you think this is a Barney, John, you should come to our Monday morning meetings.
I don't
Okay.
even go to our Monday morning meeting.
Oh,
It's
I
just him marching up and down the office shouting about me.
Yeah. Generally.
Okay, Owen, did I hear a can being cracked there?
You certainly did. I'm behind the trend. I really wanted to have a box. It's a while. It's a while.
Oh, for fuck's sake! I thought we're transitioning into the
We can
the
choose.
thing.
We can choose.
That was almost the neatest segue in history.
Yeah, you had to wreck it.
I could have lied to you, but I can't. You know.
Yeah,
I can't
sorry,
do it.
too honest, too honest.
I'm gonna crack one open. I'm still sipping the bottle, but I'm gonna crack one of these open. It's called I
Okay.
Will, yeah.
Sounds good.
I will.
I'll follow suit.
I will.
This one doesn't have a new suit, no?
It
It's getting
has,
a new
but
suit.
that's older stock you have. We just did a new
It's
batch
getting a
yesterday.
new suit. But this beer is the evolution of pale ale. So pale ale has evolved from what we just tasted, which is very balanced, kind of equal parts bitterness and equal parts aroma. It's been all about the aroma, all about the fruit flavors. And this follows the trend of using some oats and making the beer very cloudy. It's 4%, it's light, but it's got quite a heavy body because of all those oats, and there's quite a bit of raw barley in it too. And the idea of all of that is so that you can pack in the aroma hops. So we don't put any bitter and hops into this. So bitter and hops go in early in the boil. Traditionally in a beer, you put the bitter and hops in early, you put the flavor hops in halfway, and you put the aroma hops in at the end. This doesn't get any of that. This just gets a load of hops chucked in halfway through the whirlpool, and then a pile of hops thrown in the dry hopping. And it's dry hopped twice, which is why it's called, is it called double dry hopped? Yeah.
Yes.
We did say it on the label. It's a double dry hop pale ale. And that when you use the right hops, allows you to accentuate the juiciness and the fruit flavors. And that's what this beer is about.
Isn't there something about the alpha acids in there being able to activate this salivary glands as well? Or did I imagine that?
I don't know, you must have read that somewhere.
Yeah, I think I did. But then, like, there's triggers for human beings' taste buds. You know, like if you have a nice beer, especially before a meal, that it triggers salivary ducts, and you start anticipating good food with the taste, but all you're getting is the liquid. You know, so maybe that's one for Richie and his steak.
There's something there anyway. I'd say that's.
I did definitely read that somewhere in a book that Liam didn't give me.
Definitely. I'm going to ask, there was loads of comments there back earlier, a lot of them very complimentary. Garrod was saying, or Jason was saying, just discussing with his wife how the value of the launch box shouldn't be overlooked. It was incredible value. What was it, like €35 or something?
34 with the packing was 6, and then we really had to beef up the packing. We bought in cases, just cardboard cases, and extra packing. There were another $250 or so X-Vats, so probably about £3 a piece. So we stuck another £1 on the case to try.
That sounds like we need to put the price up to me.
Yeah, we're very reluctant to do that anyway, you know, because we're aware that we're selling to the public, and we wanted to keep it at the €40 mark for a case of beer. You know, it is a case of beer at the end of the day. We're trying to be competitive, but you know, we run what, 2,500, maybe 2,700 bottles, or maybe a few more, 3,000 cans in a run. You know, you're doing 4 of them a month. You know, it's not a huge amount to be able to pay the rent and pay yourself and keep the thing moving. So, you know, it's about balance. Same as balancing business, balancing the beer, balancing everything.
Yeah.
You know.
Throw a few quid on it. I don't think anyone here would mind anyway.
Yeah. As the beer needs to be accessible taste-wise, the price needs to be accessible, because you know it's a very, very competitive market.
Look, the reason we're able to do that price, or the reason you're able to buy beer at that price from us, because you're dealing directly with the brewery. There's no middleman. That's why we got the license we got, and it gives customers good value, and we don't lose out either. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And the question earlier on about the web development and rebranding and all of that, we've had the opportunity because the pubs and restaurants have been closed. We're a very food orientated brewery, but with the food and pubs closed, it's been very challenging. So I think we're offering reasonable value for what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. This could cause nightmares, to be honest. But who was it? Garrett was asking, would you consider throwing a glass in the launch box for €40? An extra bit of glass in there.
Extra, yes. We sell them a $5 a pop.
If the glass was made of cardboard, we would, but it's not.
If you want to start a glass making factory in Ireland, because we have to get them landed from the UK, we might be able to shave a bit off it. But like everything in Ireland, we're kind of an appendage to UK suppliers, and we always have to pay that extra premium to land it over here. So a lot of the products, a lot of the stuff, apart from the malt, and we do have an advantage in really good quality malt. But everything else from that side has to come in from the UK.
Okay. There's something, so we're having two different pale ales here, and we had one from a bottle, one from a can. What I suppose drives the decision behind going for the bottle or going for the can?
In part, it's a commercial decision. Where your beer is targeted. So our bottles are very much targeted, and the beer dinner bottles are very much targeted.
It's food. It's food. It's restaurants. You don't get cans in it.
Yeah, so we target our core beers towards hospitality. The canned range is more targeted towards casual drinking at home or from the off license or direct from the brewery. That's the difference. And though the beer style we choose to put into either or is based around what's the most suitable, what's the most I don't know if suitable is the word, what drinking situation lends itself most to this beer style. So that's kind of the thinking behind it. It's not exact. The lines are blurry again, but that's where our heads are at with that decision.
Okay, very good.
No, it's food based, but it's also like our favorite way of doing our classic range of beers were developed for glass. So, as I mentioned, we're very reluctant to go away from glass for those classic beers. But yeah, it's food in the food realm. It's cans where we can sell them in cans, especially in the off licenses. And it allows us to do that kind of fresher draft beer style that people care, and the market has gone towards that. And it's an interesting one on the mini kegs, actually. I don't know if the people here are really aware of the mini kegs, but it's given us that opportunity to do draft beer at home. Now, one thing I would say about the mini kegs is once you tap it, you need to be drinking it. So you need to have, a queer thirst on you or a few lads around. Because if you leave it overnight, it will get a bit tired. It will just lose its zest inside the keg.
Yeah. Actually, there was a question about the mini kegs earlier that I meant to ask, and I just after remembering. Are they recyclable, or how does it work with them?
To go into the recycling, normal recycling, yeah. Same as a big can.
Yeah, okay. That's good. Good to hear. Catching up, yeah, the comments have been flying here and the questions as well, so I'll try and catch up. A lot of love for the packing in the box. I know you said you beefed it up. It's it was extremely well packed. I don't know how any of them managed to be. If DVD managed to break any of them, then fair play to them. And plus one on the value as well. Absolutely brilliant value. Patrick was asking, the Hellas is lovely. How can you get that on tap in the town? And how receptive have bars been in Longford with you guys as you grow?
In a word, lager is difficult in draft in pubs because, well, that's more than a word, but because you have...
You're never going to do that in a word, though.
Well, I could say competition because you have so many lager options from your Carling, which is Franciscan well, Your Carling is there for 370 a pint in Longford Town, I think, 360, 370, all the way up to your premium Heineken Carlsbergs, which is there for 440, 450, possibly up to 480. So we're coming in there with a pale ale, because the pale ale is a different option. And there's lads in there now at this point that drink nothing but it. To go in there with the likes of our Hellas, or even the likes of the light lager, we'd have to be competing on price with them, and it just doesn't make sense.
Fair enough. They're catching up big time here. So Alan was asking, I know you alluded to My Twist earlier. What's the difference between I Will, double dry hop juicy pale ale and the new My Twist double dry hopped hazy IPA?
1.2% alcohol and an awful lot more hops.
There's different hops used. The My Twist is us stepping further into the evolution of pale ales, so or IPAs. So we've used a shortened boil. So we only boil traditionally and always, almost like a religion. Brewers boil their work for an hour. We boiled the My Twist for half an hour, which felt very strange, I have to be honest. It goes against everything you're taught as a brewer. But the reason we do that is to enhance the haziness of the beer. The other thing we did with it was we brewed it at a very low mash temperature because we wanted to make it light. There's a huge amount of raw barley and oats in My Twist, much bigger than I Will, yeah. And what they do is they lend a lot of protein to the beer. So you get a big fluffy head on the beer, and you get a lot of body from that protein. So what we do to balance that is we mash it at a low temperature. So we get a lot of very fermentable sugars. So the body of the beer is a little bit thinner. And that's so it doesn't become cloying and too sweet and too heavy. Try and let the hops shine through. And we put quite a few flavouring hops into My Twist. It's not just aroma, it's not just about dry hopping. So it's quite a bit of bitterness to it as well. It's very different, I Will, very different experience. Like I Will is a 4% beer, but it has a lot more body than My Twist, which is a 5.2% beer. But the challenge when you're doing a beer that thin at that alcohol is to not have that alcoholic burn coming through. So I think we've managed to achieve masking the alcoholic burn and getting the right balance into the beer. Probably needs a few tweaks in the next batch, but try the first batch first, so you can
wait for the feedback before you do
you can understand the tweaks.
Yeah. A few twists. There's a huge amount of questions which I've kept track of them all, so we'll get to them definitely in time.
Brian, before you get on, the second part of that question, lads were asking about what the support has been around Longford Town. I can only say it's been fantastic. We've done really well with the likes of Eddie Valentine, Tally Ho, Andy Burns, the Longford Arms, and most of the other places carry the bottles or some sort of option there. It's a commercial decision for a pub to take us in. They're getting all sorts of other stuff thrown at them for free and everything else all the time. So any support is great support, to be honest, and we're very grateful for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's great to hear. It's excellent to have the local support. Sure, you wouldn't be able to survive. I don't think any business could survive without it. So yeah, well, that's fantastic. Ruben is saying that he's just inspected the bottle of brown ale and he's happy to report that the label is indeed brown. So
thank you, Ruben.
Thank you.
Thank God.
Yeah.
we googled cigar brown for that one.
Oh, very nice.
There's different types of brown apparently, but we won't go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, as I said, I have about 10 questions here stored up. So if I haven't asked your question, guys, don't worry. We will get to them. I'm keeping them.
Rock on.
I'm keeping them in store here. I'm wondering though. So what's coming next? Basically, we know the My Twist is coming out, but what's coming down the line for St. Mels?
That's where is the camera? There's My Twist in red. Look out for the red.
I'll have the red can, please.
Yes.
And Liam has a, before we get on to the other one, Liam has a very exciting project going on with the bakery next door.
Somebody just said it's orange. I'm going to kill that person.
Brilliant.
You can't say that about orange in this country.
Brewer arrested for murder. You're not recording this. Uses that.
I can edit.
Sorry, the exciting project. Which one on?
The Symbio beer with the lads across the road, the bakery.
Oh yeah. So we were approached in March. Owen was approached by a neighbour actually who works for an outfit called Irish Manufacturing Research, and they had an idea. They're into the circular economy and taking waste from one production facility and using it in another. And they had spotted that there was a bakery and a brewery beside each other in Longford, and they said, "Why don't you take the bread from the bakery, turn it into beer?" We thought that was a brilliant idea. So we've been working on this project for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, almost 8 months. And we've done several trial brews, and we've just received the bread back from where we sent it to get dry. Chag has helped us out with that, and we're going to do our first pilot or our first full-scale production batch next week, and that's going to be released before Christmas in a 750 ml bottle. And it's going to be a style of beer I've never brewed before. It's going to be a Belgian golden ale. And the reason we're doing a Belgian golden ale is because I've never brewed one before. So we're brewing that next Tuesday, which we're looking forward to.
Nice.
Lots of challenges with it. Bread doesn't behave. Bread is a source of starch. This bakery beside us it's a proper industrial bakery. They put out a lot of waste bread, so if we could take some of that out of the waste stream. What
was it in tonnage? The waste flour in tonnage?
I've been told I can't talk about that, so
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
But there's a lot of bread. A lot of bread comes out of there. But and it's emerged, or we always had it in our heads, but the science behind it is starting to stack up. Our brewers spent grains are going to make a very good ingredient in their bread, hopefully. So we're working on a bit of that, and I'm helping the bakers out with the science on that as well. So there's a nutritional profile to brewers' spent grains that are desirable in the baking process. So we're hopefully going to have a bread in the supermarkets made from our spent grains as well.
Well, at the moment, it's actually put into animal feed mostly.
Spent grains is, and so is that waste bread
and that waste bread.
Yeah. But if you can bring it up the value chain for both sides, for us and for the bakery, their waste goes up the value chain, our waste goes up the value chain, and it's a win-win for the environment as well. So yeah, it's really exciting.
It's not all carbs. It's like if you're putting it into the food chain, you're looking for beef. Speaking as a beef farmer, you're looking for protein. You're looking for fiber. So there's value in that byproduct.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Joey just asked the question there, and you preempted it essentially. Saying, do you do anything with your spent grains, like dog treats, that kind of thing? And,
we don't process them ourselves because there's high cost in drying that stuff. A local farmer takes them. And
when you mentioned earlier that you had the Hereford beef, I thought that would be.
Yeah, no, I don't take them myself. My dad was into it. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but we still have a few cattle here. Nowhere near enough to consume the amount of even if maybe 300 or 400 kilos a week that comes out of our place. I have enough grass around here to keep them fed, but it is a big bonus to farmers to knock down that price of feed, especially when the price that they're getting at the markets and stuff like that. But that's an entirely different commercial conversation. But it is very low. Margins are very, very tight, and the workload is very, very high in it. And the age of farmers that are at this stuff is getting older and older all the time. it's going to reach a point that there's nobody left on the land to mind the cattle, you know. So you might just have sheds full of them, and fields full of briars and sheds full of cows eating grain. You know, that's what could happen. So
Yeah.
hopefully it doesn't.
Okay, I'm thinking we're going to keep moving up the, I suppose, the palate pummeling throughout the night, and will we transition into our IPA next?
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, is Liam there? Oh, there he is. He's back.
You're yeah, perfect.
Okay, I think he's coming back. There we
Sorry,
are.
just had to plug in my device. I'm sure Owen. Is he
I
on
thought you-
Irish history yet? No.
No, I was sticking to
Thank God.
the protein content of your grain.
Oh.
After.
Yeah, we've had a few questions about the malt actually, which we'll come back to, but we'll crack into the IPA first, and then we'll revert back.
Okay. Can we all agree that the label for this IPA is also red?
Any
It's
contradiction?
definitely red.
Yeah, I think Sasha said it was orange, but
it's not a Westmead maroon. Just point that out now.
definitely not.
No. So we kind of talked about IPA, and we've kind of talked about what it is. Our IPA is quite bitter, so you could probably call it an old school IPA. And we have been tinkering around with this. I tinker around with the hops in this a lot. In fact, I was looking at the raw label, and I don't think any of the hops mentioned on the raw label are in this beer anymore. So that was all lies. But the other thing we've changed a lot is it used to be a lot maltier. We've reduced the maltiness of it slightly, just to let the hops shine through a bit more. Yeah, really good beer. 5.2%, not too strong. And it does exactly what it says in the tin. It's a nice bitter IPA. I can't remember which hops are in it. I'm searching my mind for which hops we have. Chinook is a big hop in it.
Is it on the bottle?
I can remember my spiel from multiple shop tastings.
Chinook and
we started out with Ricau.
oh, Mandarina Bavaria is a big hop in it. So
Yeah.
Mandarina Bavaria is German hop, and it was the German that to compete with all these American hops that are being brewed. So they stole some Cascade hops from America and they bred Mandarina Bavaria, and I really like it. It has a tangerine flavor. Or Ruben says orange marmalade.
There was a couple of New Zealand hops in there. Was it Waimea and Ricau we started dicking around with at the start, and then we swapped them out for the Mandarina because it just gave it that zestiness that we were trying to get.
Me and Ricau were in it originally, and we got rid of them. We put in the Mandarina. Chinook has always been in it. There's
It's
another
not
one.
Sterling, is it?
No.
No. Is it?
Look, it's really nice.
Tradition?
It's a lovely IPA. It's very, very enjoyable.
You're into Czechoslovakia there on with tradition.
No.
Yeah.
Liberty.
No. Always just shouting hop names at his
Yes, I am, exactly.
You've seen them on invoices and looked at the prices and cried.
Per pallet, or pellet, I should say.
Yeah. Anyway, Jason's saying it's delicious. The comments have been unanimous saying that it's red. No one is questioning that whatsoever. Just don't look at the comments, please. Okay, right. I'll jump back to a few questions from earlier. What I saw a couple around malt actually. You were saying yourself, Liam, how good the malt in Ireland is. A few people were asking where do you source it from? Is it Minch or others? And someone else asked, you've mentioned a couple of times the quality of Irish malt is very good. Could you explain why, please?
Well, from a malt grower's point of view, now we have grown malt here on the farm as well, and I know a few things about it. The sub soil here is very good in lime terms. The base rock underneath most of the country is very good. So you're like where we are here, we'd have to lime it. The ground, we'd actually spread lime on it, but that gives the structure to the stalk. It literally holds the thing up to the sun, and it allows it to grow. So down south and in the southeast, it's higher. It's why it's really good ground for horses and all sorts of agriculture, because it gives organic matter that kind of structure. So you have that, and down south you have a very fresh climate. You have adequate sunshine. You have free draining land, and you have the ability to be able to get good yields and malt it out.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I just realized that I asked a malt question during an IPA, but we'll gloss over that.
All of our beers are malt based, man, and that's the foundation of everything we do. Everything after that, it's just the hops are to balance out the malt, but you know the base of everything is the malt. Liam is nodding in agreement.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah. So Vince has asked hops, pellet or whole leaf, which do you prefer?
Well, we can't prefer any because I'm sure Liam will correct me if I'm wrong, but leaf has to be harvested and used straight away, and that's not possible. So we use
Not quite right, Ron. But leaf are dried as well. But the problem with leaf is they're incredibly bulky, and they're
you'd have
incredibly
to transport it then.
And the difference between pellets and leaf is only that pellets are leaf without all the air. They're just chopped up leaves pushed into a pellet. There's no chemical treatment or anything like that with them. They're just compacted together. So pellet just for ease of use. There's actually no difference in what you get out of them.
Yeah.
I've worked with whole leaf, and some people talk about the better aroma from it and all that, but it's not my experience.
Well, like the pellet product is.
There's no improvement and there's only hardship.
The pellet product is brought straight in from the field, freeze dried, hammer milled, pelletized, vac packed within a matter of hours. So you know it's fresh as.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all the different hop growers know this, you know, so they process it for the best product they can give us.
The big problem we have in this country is that we don't have any hop growers on a commercial scale, not proper ones anyway.
Climate isn't easy though. Southeast maybe.
No, the climate's not. The climate doesn't lend itself to it. But because of that, importing big massive bales of whole leaf hops is just it'll be crazy.
It'd be thick, yeah.
Thick. Okay. I'm going to hit you with a double barrel question because I might have to disappear for about 3 minutes. First of all, are you?
You're a bladder of steel, man. Fair play.
It's been over 2 hours. So first of all, okay, brewery tours. Are you going to be open for tours and tastings in the future? And then no, hang on. Let me ask a second.
Well, no, the straight up answer to that is we don't do them because Longford is not a tourist footfall area. Now we did put the retail off license on the business so we could do that and sell retail if people call in. We don't get that many tourists. We don't have the facilities for them. But if somebody wanted to arrange a tour with a group or something like that, we'd be more than happy to facilitate.
Okay. Did you do that
Sorry,
on purpose?
that's what I meant to say. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Did you do that on purpose? Because I was trying to escape. You went straight in and didn't let me ask the second question. Okay.
Oh, you
right.
have another question.
Are you expecting an impact on your business from Brexit? And then the second question is: are 5 liter kegs here to stay post-COVID? Go.
Off you go.
The Brexit one's interesting. Like this Brexit thing blew up a year ago, more than a year ago, and we took steps to protect ourselves then. Or we at least put a supply plan in place so that we had alternatives to the stuff that came from the UK. We haven't had to do any of that. I don't even know where the file is that has all that information. But Brexit is just around the corner. it has the potential to impact our business. Nobody knows how. Everybody's expecting something to happen. But the answer to Brexit at the moment is nobody has a clue, particularly the people in charge. So
Yeah, I have a feeling they'll come up with exactly the same situation at a last minute agreement at the December 31st, and everybody's going to walk away a hero and maybe get themselves a nice bonus as well.
yeah, I thought that up until the last week
That's what they want you to think.
Yeah, maybe.
They're very good at what they do.
Who knows what's going to happen? But like we used to have the stress of Brexit, and you had like 10 emails a day related to Brexit from various state agencies and suppliers and all that. And then COVID happened, and nobody talked about Brexit anymore, and it wasn't the number one thing to worry about. And everybody started worrying about COVID, and you got 10 emails a day about COVID. So,
like Brexit's become it's an Irish, like it's England and the EU, and then there's the Ireland-England business. Two of them are two separate issues, and they affect both sides differently.
I think so, but these big global things, they will impact your business. There's absolutely nothing you can do to control it. All you can do is limit the impact.
Like Brexit, like COVID, like everything else, we're so small, we're like little ninjas. We can adapt very quickly.
Midgets in the headlight. Like
little midget businesses. We can move quickly and adapt and find new sources if we need to. It's not huge risk, only to ourselves and our own mental health.
Which is slowly eroding away. All that's left is a spent book.
I was just said that to see who's listening. There's only about 5 people that are
What happened when I was gone? I come back.
No, it was just a comment to see who was paying attention. But we never even got to the second part of your question, Brian. We were still talking about Brexit. Mini kegs. Mini kegs are a viable option as long as people want to drink them. We're expecting to do really well with them over the Christmas period because, people are home. They might have a few extra guests in the house, and it's a nice option to have draft beer, quality beer there, but not the big commitment to a keg or all the rigmarole around that. 5 liters, just under 9 pints. So, you'll fill 8-9 glasses out of it and have a toast. And you'd want to be drinking it that night, though. That's just my feeling on it. You can do your best to try and keep the condition on it, the fizziness on it, by closing it up or keeping it cold. But keep it chilled as long as you can, for as low temperature as you can. Don't freeze it, and open it up, enjoy it, and enjoy it with friends, and enjoy it as fast as you possibly can to keep that freshness there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at the time. We're on 10 o'clock now, lads. So I think we might have hit the time that we've all been waiting for.
Yes, it is time.
It is time. Okay, let's do it, everyone. Oh, you're going old school.
I'm rocking retro brown hair, dude.
You're going old school. Okay, right.
Now, I might also say, Brian, I think it's time to open it up to the group. I think it's time to unmute everybody. Absolutely. Let's have a chat.
You're dead right. You're dead right.
Let's have a chat. Let's drink some sauce and have a chat, and last man shouting wins.
Okay.
That will be on. That will be on.
Guarantee you.
Okay, right, folks. Before we open it up, I'm just going to say huge thank you to, first of all, for everyone for coming on tonight. Everyone for buying a beer box. Liam and Eoin for being just absolute legends in general and supplying some incredible beer to us all over the country. Massive fans of the beer. Love the new site, love the new branding, love everything about it. So, guys, absolute heroes. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing.
Brian, I have to say, thank you very much, man, for having us on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I know you put yourself out there, you put your time into it. You're a proper beer enthusiast, and people in business are starting to take notice of what you're doing. So keep it up, and all the best and much more success to you in all your beery endeavors.
Yeah, what Owen just said. And also, thanks to everybody who bought a launch box or for coming along. I hope you all got I hope you remembered to put in the discount codes for you all.
Yeah. It's
your
my
continued
twist, by the
support-
way.
Your continued support is very much appreciated. We might not be clear, but the reason we went with my twist is because it's the name of our new beer that's available on the webshop.
I have a child shouting in the background, so I'm actually
Nice plug at the end. Okay, right.
Yeah.
That's the end of our formal session, lads. Let's
Thanks
open
very
it
much,
up.
Brian.
Yeah. Cheers, lads. Always a pleasure.